Common motives for traffic stops, what to do if stopped, and your rights, Part 1. Any person violating a moving or non-moving traffic regulation may receive a written traffic ticket from state law enforcement personnel. If a traffic police or other law enforcement official sees you breaking the rules of the road, they may signal for you to pull over. Sooner or later, almost every driver is stopped by a police officer. If this occurs to you, it was probably caused by a moving traffic infraction. Even while you might not think you did anything wrong, remember that the majority of traffic infractions are unintentional. Whatever the cause, you must stop when the police officer commands you to and obey them by pulling over. Common grounds for stopping. There are numerous reasons why police pull over motorists, so you shouldn't immediately assume that you are in trouble if you notice flashing lights behind your car. The police might have noticed a potentially hazardous vehicle fault. For instance, a faulty or inadequate headlight, a dim or broken tail light, apparent low tire pressure, the vehicle's trunk is not properly closed. If you are being stopped for a traffic infraction, one of the following is usually the case: using a cell phone while driving and texting, passing in a dangerous way, making a forbidden turn, tailgating, speeding, within your lane, weaving, not buckling up in a car. Police officers may also stop you if they believe you are involved in illicit activities or if your car has an invalid license or registration. For illustration, your car's registration has run out of time. Your license plates are missing, perhaps one or both. Your car matches the description of one that was used in a crime. You are consistent with the profile of a criminal. How to react when the police stop you. Law enforcement personnel will flash their blue or red lights while pursuing you, making it clear when they want you to stop. Remember that unmarked police cars might just have a red flashing light. You should still pull over if you see one. Do not become alarmed when you realize you are being stopped. Keep in mind that the purpose of traffic enforcement officers, which includes you, is to ensure the safety and comfort of all road users. Use your right turn signal to acknowledge the officer's presence and to show that you plan to follow his instructions. Even if you can't pull over right away, you should do this as soon as you can, since if you don't, the officer can wonder what your plans are. Move your car to the right and stop it far from the traffic flow at the first safe chance. Turn on the interior light of the automobile before you start your nighttime drive. As soon as you come to a stop, roll down any tinted windows if you have any. As the police draws near, continue driving with your hands still on the wheel. Respect the officer's orders and act appropriately. The law enforcement officer may use their PA system to direct you to a different position if you are stopping in a spot they deem unsafe, such as on a bridge or a busy section of road. Driving security when being stopped. Drivers need to keep in mind that every day, police enforcement personnel risk their lives to protect the general population. The people in the car that the police are stopping don't know who they are or what kind of threat they might be. You must follow protocol and refrain from acting in any way that can be construed as threatening by abiding by the following guidelines. Until the police officer says you may, do not remove your hands from the wheel. Do not look for your license and registration paperwork in the glove box, the car door, your handbag, or any other place. The policeman might believe that you are attempting to hide something or reaching for a weapon. If your hands are resting on the driving wheel, do not have anything in them, not even a cell phone, as the policeman can mistake it for a weapon. Unless the officer commands you to, do not exit the car. Do alert the officer if you are carrying a weapon of any kind. It is preferable for the officer to be instantly aware of the presence of a gun than to discover one suddenly. A firearm shouldn't be kept in the glove box. Do not search for your documents in the glove box or any other location that is not in plain sight without first getting the officer's authorization. Do exercise courtesy and cooperation. Both you and the police officer will find the situation far less stressful as a result. What occurs if you don't think the person who is stopping you is a real police officer? Do not be concerned. There are measures you may do to safeguard your safety without upsetting the law enforcement official or unnecessarily raising the likelihood that you will be detained. Never run away from a policeman trying to pull you over. Instead, turn on your hazard lights and slow down to the posted limit of speed. This is also the action you should take if you intend to comply but do not believe you can safely pull over in current road or traffic conditions. After indicating your intent to comply, You are free to move to a location with greater lighting and or more nearby people if you feel safer doing so. If you think it's vital to confirm the police officer's identity, dial 911. Make sure the police officer displays a legitimate ID to you. The phone operator may need some time to locate the officer who stopped you, so please be patient. Receiving a ticket for an infraction on the road. A police officer will give you a reason for being stopped when they pull your car over. The officer will give you a ticket if you are being cited for a traffic infraction. No matter why you received a ticket, keep in mind this sentence. Act now and object later. If you disagree with the citation, do not quarrel with the police officer. You will have the chance to contest it later through the legal channels. You must sign your ticket to indicate that you will either accept or contest the infraction. You are not admitting guilt when you sign your ticket. When the police officer signals that you are free to leave, indicate that you want to re-enter the proper lane of traffic and move slowly. Common motives for traffic stops, what to do if stopped, and your rights, Part 2. During a traffic stop, your rights. When you are aware of your rights and understand what is expected of you during a traffic stop, the experience is often less tense and goes more smoothly. Let's clear up some frequent misunderstandings about your rights during a traffic stop as well as some minor differences in the legislation of the various states. You have the right to silence. Not just while you're being arrested does the right to keep silent apply. Anyone who interacts with a police officer has the right to remain silent at all times. Remember that if asked during routine traffic stops, you must always present your license, registration, and proof of insurance. Although you do not need to speak while giving this documentation, you should inquire with the police officer if you need to go elsewhere for these materials or open the glove compartment. During a traffic stop, drivers may be required by law in some jurisdictions to respond to queries about their identity. By reading up the topic in your driver's manual, you can determine whether this applies in your state. Regardless of whether you are legally compelled to give the officer your name, address, or any other identifying information, it is best to do so and to cooperate as fully as you can. Refusing to communicate will make the police officers work harder, which will make them less likely to be forgiving of you. Drivers should be aware that lying when identifying oneself or refusing to identify oneself when being brought under arrest are both offenses. Your right to be informed of the purpose of the stop. Police must have a good reason before stopping a member of the public. This is referred to as probable cause, and it could be a broken tail light, speeding, or any other comparable reason, which justifies looking into you or your car. Police officers are required by law to inform you of this reason, and you have a right to know it. If they have not made the purpose of the stop obvious, do not be hesitant to inquire. Your right to record or photograph. Any interaction you have with police enforcement personnel, including regular traffic stops, may be filmed or recorded without any issues. Body cameras are frequently used by police enforcement organizations to record encounters with the public. However, you have every right to record your exchange with the officer if you believe they are not acting properly, and you may need the audio or video proof in the future. Every state is subject to this regulation. Your option to object to a search. Only 3 conditions must be met for a law enforcement officer to search your car. They must be able to see something illegal in plain view. They must have solid evidence that a crime has been committed. Most traffic infractions are misdemeanors or infractions, not crimes, or you must give your consent. Otherwise, a warrant is required in order to conduct the search without your consent. The best course of action if an officer insists on searching your car without your permission is to acquiesce to the search and then file a complaint with the appropriate authorities. If the officer feels they have probable cause in this situation, they may force you to consent to the search. Can you say no to getting out of the car? When ordered to exit your car during a traffic stop, you must do so even though you have the right to question the officer's justification. Before requesting you to exit your car, police must have a reasonable suspicion that you are up to no good. They might ask you to exit the vehicle if they think you are carrying a weapon or are intoxicated. Always obey in these situations because refusing to exit the car could appear suspicious and get you into greater problems. Is it legal to decline a breathalyzer test? You have already given implied agreement to testing your blood alcohol content by signing your driver's license. By signing their driver's licenses, drivers are essentially agreeing to any upcoming breathalyzer testing. Implied consent can apply to blood tests or breathalyzer tests depending on the state. In other states, it only applies to breathalyzer testing. In the latter case, you are free to request a blood test rather than a roadside breathalyzer. But doing so would be useless, because it would just make things more difficult for you. Submitting a complaint or a grievance. If you think you were handled unfairly during a traffic stop, you have the right to complain to the appropriate authorities. On the ticket the officer gave you, you may typically find the contact information and other facts required to file a complaint. Check the DMV website to see if the Regional Transportation Authority can assist you instead. If motorists believe the officer's conduct during the stop was exemplary, they may also use this channel to offer a compliment. Law enforcement organizations use complaints and praises to train officers, monitor inappropriate behavior, and reward appropriate behavior. How to respond to your traffic ticket. It is not required to act immediately after receiving a citation for a traffic infraction. You should receive a letter from the courts outlining how to respond to the ticket within a few weeks. Your options are: acknowledge that you broke the law and accept the penalty, most often a fine or points against your license. Request a court hearing to contest the summons and enter a not guilty plea. You will be forced to submit your evidence in court if you decide to enter a not guilty plea. Additionally, the police officer who wrote the citation will be asked to provide testimony. The consequences of eluding a police officer. It is a criminal offense to try to elude a police officer. When a police officer signals that they want to pull you over, you should never refuse to stop or try to elude them by driving faster. Even though you haven't yet deliberately broken the law or committed a crime, if you keep going, you will. Although they vary from coast to coast in the United States, the penalties for eluding a police officer are severe. Let's use California as an illustration. Offense: ignoring a police officer's request to stop your car. Prison time of up to a year in a county jail is the penalty. Offense: intentionally running away from a police officer while causing serious bodily harm to anyone. Penalty: up to 1 year in county jail or 3, 5, or 7 years in a state prison. A fine of at least $2,000 but not more than $10,000, or both a fine and imprisonment. Offense: killing somebody while attempting to elude the police is a crime. Penalty: state prison time of 4, 6, or 10 years. In your state, similar fines and sanctions will probably be imposed. Make sure you read through the portion in your driver's manual designated for this information. Above all, keep in mind that avoiding or defying a police officer only worsens the situation for everyone concerned.